What's going on, guys? MMA Outlaw here, and today we are going to be breaking down every single fight that will be happening on UFC 326, Holloway versus Charles Oliveira 2 for the BMF belt from T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we are going to be giving you all of our best bets as well. And so, let's get right into it, starting with the early prelim opener of Luke Fernandez versus Rodolfo Bellato. I am going to pull out my phone real quick just so I can make sure that I can check these betting odds. But I believe Luke Fernandez was about a minus 230 favorite versus Rodolfo Bellato last time I looked. And I don't even have to look at the betting odds for this portion of it. But Luke Fernandez is 6-0 in his career in MMA, obviously making his debut here in the UFC after a knockout win on Dana White's Contender Series, a very impressive win at that. And so Luke Fernandez, 5 of his 6 wins coming by KO. Can he get the job done against Rodolfo Bellato, who has had 4 fights in the UFC and may have the most interesting record of any fighter who has 4 fights in the UFC? 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw, and 1 no contest. That is an absolutely ridiculous record from Rodolfo Bellato. I do believe that Rodolfo Bellato, despite the fact that he's faced a higher level of competition, he's seen guys like Paul Craig, he's seen guys like Jimmy Crute. He beat, I believe his knockout win was against Ihor Potieria. Yes, that's correct. Ihor Potieria, if I remember correctly. And his 1 loss was to, an absolutely talented fighter at that in the light heavyweight division in Navajo Sterling. But Luke Fernandez with a lot of momentum coming off of the Contender Series. I actually watched a video of my boy Matty Betts. I'll shout him out here real quick. Matty Betts had Luke Fernandez on the show. And Luke Fernandez, sorry, I'm just turning up my brightness for you guys so you guys can really see my face. Luke Fernandez did predict that he was going to knock out Rodolfo Bellato by first round finish. He said he was going to get it done inside the distance. He said, Rodolfo Bellato likes to scrap. He said he likes to throw hands. And so I predict Luke Fernandez to win this fight by knockout. Luke Fernandez is the selection here. I believe he is. I'm just checking right now just so I can get the betting odds correct for you guys if I head to the prelims. Yep, Luke Fernandez is a minus 235 favorite, and to win by knockout is about plus 110. I like both of those picks there. Fernandez on the money line and him to win by knockout. I think he gets the job done. He does have a little bit of a wrestling base. Sometimes he likes to take guys down and throw that ground and pound. But Rodolfo Bellato is definitely lost in his career. He's kind of soy, sometimes gives up in some of his fights. And so I think Luke Fernandez moves forward and KOs Rodolfo Bellato in the first fight of the night. And so moving upward, we have Jeong Lee versus Gaston Bolanos. And this fight is an actually really entertaining one. I know you guys are seeing that record of 8-5 for Gaston Bolanos, but that is not accurate to, who he is as a fighter. Gaston Bolanos' first fight as a professional was actually in Bellator. And so he fought in Bellator for a while there, has come over to the UFC. Since joining the UFC, has had 4 fights, 2 wins, 2 losses, the exact same record in the UFC as Jeong Lee. 4 fights in the UFC, 2 wins, 2 losses. Both of these individuals are coming off of losses. But as you see, Gaston Bolanos has that 135 weight class, but this is a featherweight bout. And so Gaston Bolanos is making the move up to featherweight. And I do think we've seen Gaston Bolanos kind of get thrown around there in the featherweight division, kind of look like the smaller fighter. At bantamweight. And now he's moving up to featherweight. And Jeong Lee is an absolutely huge featherweight. Both of these guys love to strike. This is certainly going to be a striker's delight. Gaston Bolanos is coming with a much different attack than Jeong Lee is. Gaston Bolanos is going to throw a lot of kicks. He's going to mix in his hands, but it's going to be a kick-heavy game plan for Gaston. Jeong Lee is a very strict boxer in this fight, or in every fight, so to speak, and he does not want to take Gaston Bolanos to the ground. Every single one of Gaston Bolanos' losses, he has been taken down repetitively. I believe he has not had a UFC fight in which he has not been taken down. And so Gaston Bolanos has the takedown defense of what we like to say a newborn baby giraffe. If you ever seen a newborn baby giraffe, they try and stand up and they just fall right over. And that's like Gaston Bolanos' takedown defense. And so I'm having a hard time here with this fight because I do think it stays on the feet, which is actually where Gaston Bolanos is a really strong fighter. But I think Jeong Lee could potentially hurt Gaston Bolanos early. I think Jeong Lee is just his boxing is just better than any other part of Gaston Bolanos' striking as a whole. And so that makes me feel like even if Gaston Bolanos has the slight edge on the striking, I think Jeong Lee is going to be able to do enough things to, kind of mix up where he's throwing the hands, potentially do more damage to Gaston Bolanos, look like the bigger, more physical guy in there. And I think Jeong Lee with that 4.5-inch reach advantage, kind of younger in the game than Gaston Bolanos is. I'm going to take Jeong Lee on the money line here. I wouldn't, it's a minus 295. I'm just looking down right now. I have my phone on FanDuel just so I can, check on these odds for you guys. Jeong Lee minus 295. I'm not huge on taking that, honestly, and I'm really not huge on betting on this fight at all. I could see taking a flyer on the underdog Bolanos for his striking ability, but I think Jeong Lee is just in better form as of recent, and I think he gets the job done. I'm not exactly sure how. If I had to guess, he gets it done by points, but we could also see an early finish from the powerful Jeong Lee. And so, moving on and upward, Rafael Tobias. I know his record right here says 1-0, but he's actually had 15 professional fights. He is 1-0 in the UFC, which is really his one fight was on Dana White's Contender Series, and he looked absolutely dominant in that fight. Diyar Nurgozhay? I'm not really going to even give that last name in a pronunciation attempt. The Kazakhstani man has lost both of his UFC fights by submission after coming off of a nasty knockout on Dana White's Contender Series. I believe it was a left kick, if I remember correctly. But he has nothing to offer on the ground. Absolutely nothing. And I'm going to check how many submissions Tobias has exactly, so I'm making sure that I give you guys accurate information. But Rafael Tobias is an absolute monster on the ground. There are a lot of opportunities to take submissions here. We'll get into what we're doing for the cycle lay. Honestly, I come on these fight card predictions, and I'm not even sure exactly who I'm going to predict yet, what exactly the cycle lay is going to look like. But if I look at Rafael Tobias's record, 14-1, as I mentioned, 6-0 by submission with his win on Dana White's Contender Series coming by sub. Tobias will kind of pepper from the outside. He'll take the sub opportunities. A pretty well-rounded fighter and someone who didn't start training all that long ago. I believe it was only about 5 or so years ago the 22-year-old Tobias started training. But since he started training and since he started fighting, I think he may have had something like 15 fights in 3 years. And so Tobias has accumulated a lot of experience over the years, but Diyar, he's not someone to be taken lightly. I know he has lost by submission, and so everyone's head immediately goes to, okay, Tobias is a submission guy, he's a submission artist, has a really strong BJJ game. The Kazakhstani fighter has been submitted in both of his UFC fights, so Tobias is going to win by submission. I don't think it's that simple, and I do believe that that's why the odds are. When I first saw this fight, I was like, Tobias is going to be minus 400, right? But Tobias is actually only minus 210, and I think that is because, the Kazakhstani man, he has good striking on the feet, and he could potentially outdo Tobias over 15 minutes. I think he could outstrike him over 15 minutes. And so I'm having a lot of trouble with the early fights on this card. I am going to lean Tobias because obviously the Kazakhstani fighter has not been in great form as of recent. Rafael Tobias, I've watched his Contender Series fight. I've watched some of his regional fights. He looks really high quality in them, but he is only 22 years old. This is his UFC debut on a big card. And, the Kazakhstani man is fighting for his job. Don't get me wrong. If Diyar Nurgozhay goes down with an L in this fight, he will be 0-3 in the UFC, and you will surely be seeing him on the next episode of the UFC chopping block. And so he's going to be fighting for his job. But with that being said, I still lean Tobias here. I think I lean Tobias by submission. I think I lean Tobias by submission, and that's just because the Kazakhstani man has been submitted in multiple of his fights before. I think Tobias could also win a decision. I think that's probably where the value is. Tobias is minus 210 on the money line. I would probably throw that in a parlay. But I would think about sprinkling plus 190 on the submission. I would think about sprinkling the decision, however, or whatever those odds are, and I can check that actually for. Oh, I'm sorry. I can check that actually for you. Let's check out what Yep, submission for Tobias is 190, and Tobias by points is plus 550. I actually think it's more likely that Tobias wins by points, like control, potentially a 29-28, than him to win by knockout, which is plus 350. And so give me Rafael Tobias in this one. And moving onward, we got Sumudaerji versus Jesus Aguilar. And I know when I was first thinking about this fight, I was like, okay, Sumudaerji against the 5'4", the smallest fighter, by the way. Jesus Aguilar has that dog in him. Jesus Aguilar is the smallest fighter in the UFC. 5'4" with a 62.5-inch reach. But he has won, I don't know if he's won 3 fights in the UFC, but I know that he has won 3 fights as an underdog in the UFC. And he is in another underdog spot here. And I'm not going to lie, Sumudaerji has had a knee surgery. He had to relearn how to walk at one point in his career. But at one point before that knee surgery, Sumudaerji was absolutely piecing people up on the feet, was a lethal striker that absolutely nobody in the UFC wanted to face at all. But then he had that kind of human performance against Matt Schnell, where we saw one of the greatest comebacks of all time. And we've seen Sumudaerji not look in his greatest form as of recent. He always got those knee sleeves on. Sometimes he's got the ankles taped as well. He's an older fighter, has miles on the body, and an older fighter with miles on the body at a lightweight class like flyweight, the lightest weight class in the world, that could be a problem. If I were Sumudaerji, I'd be moving around the outside, peppering that jab from a distance, running away pretty much for 15 minutes, saying, I'm just going to pepper my jab and win a 30-27 decision, because he does have nearly a 10-inch reach advantage. But something is telling me to go with the underdog play here. Jesus Aguilar is plus 200. Sumudaerji is 1-6 in fights that end by submission. Jesus Aguilar has one of the nastiest guillotines I have ever seen in my life. And Jesus Aguilar just kind of moves forward with his hands up, moving, and throws big overhands, goes for takedowns. Is a very, very aggressive fighter. And so I think Jesus Aguilar is going to be able to close the range. It's going to be very, very difficult. This fight is going to go in one of two ways. Sumudaerji is going to pepper him at distance the entire time, or Jesus Aguilar is going to be able to move forward, close that distance, and absolutely dominate Sumudaerji. And honestly, I think this fight should be about a pick'em. I don't think Sumudaerji is all that great, and I don't think Jesus Aguilar is all that great either. But in this spot right now where they are in their careers, this is a hard decision. But if you put the gun to the head, the AK-47 pointed at the dome, I'm taking Jesus Aguilar, the underdog, at plus 200 to win this fight. I think he wins this fight by decision or submission. I don't see the KO coming for him, but you could always have something unexpected happen. So don't get me wrong. I think I'm probably just gonna be rocking with the money line here with the long odds, but might throw a little sprinkle on Jesus Aguilar by sub as well, because we know Sumudaerji just loves to throw himself into those chokes. And so give me Jesus Aguilar at plus 200 here. So moving on, Cody Durden versus Tumendemberel. I promise you, before I get on these videos, I look at these guys and I'm like, I'm gonna say this name right this time. And I listen to how you pronounce the name, and then I get on here and I forget. And it's a difficult name at that. But the Mongolian man, a young prospect who actually did he lose on the? I need to double check if he lost on the Contender Series, but I know that he won his most recent fight which was a Road to UFC fight, which is, I don't know why they're saying his last fight was a loss. His last fight within like a UFC octagon was definitely a loss. I'm gonna go double check really quick. And yeah, so he lost when he was in the UFC. He lost to Carlos Hernandez, but then he won a fight on the road to the UFC to finally be signed back to the UFC. And Cody Durden has not been in good form as of late. I believe he has lost 5 of 6. I'm going to double check just to make sure again that I'm giving you guys correct statistics. But Cody Durden has lost 5 of 6, but his level of competition has been incredible, right? Yep. Lost to Alan Nascimento, lost to Jose Ochoa, has fought the flyweight champion Josh Van. He beat Matt Schnell, but that's like a concession prize at this point. The only person to lose to Matt Schnell is Sumudaerji in that crazy comeback. He got KO'd by Brunno, the Bulldog Silva. So Cody Durden, he's lost to Takir Ulanbekov. Yeah, so he's 1-5 in his last 6. But Tumendemberel, that is how you say his name. I got it. Tumendemberel is horrible. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's horrible. And so is Cody Durden. I really do not believe that Cody Durden is very good. The ATT product trains out of South Florida. You know, it's always had good wrestling, but it's like these fighters should come with like an IQ label next to their name, because every time Cody Durden's piecing someone up on the feet, he shoots for the takedown. And then every time he's dominating someone on the ground, he stands back up and tries to strike with them on the feet. And it is a very, very, very difficult thing to handle. You know, I'm not exactly sure how to go about some of these fights. It is I'm like almost at a loss. I'm almost at a loss, not knowing what to do with some of these fights. But again, another difficult decision. Gun to the head, M16 pointed at the back of my dome. Give me Cody Durden. Give me Cody Durden to pull off another upset. We're going with underdog galore here. I believe Cody Durden is like plus 125 here on the money line. I think he's probably getting this fight done by decision. I think Tumendemberel has looked tired in some of his last fights, and honestly, he just doesn't look that skilled. I do think Tumendemberel has a lot of opportunity to improve. Cody Durden is certainly the older fighter, being 34, with Tumendemberel being 27, but we'll see how this one plays out. Give me the underdog, Cody Durden. So moving on, I'm going to try and speed through these a little bit faster because I'm talking my butt off, which is something I tend to do. But we got Ricky Turcios versus Alberto Montes. And again, another fighter who's moving up in weight from the bantamweight division to featherweight. And I think Ricky Turcios looked small. He looked small at bantamweight. He got bullied around at bantamweight. He had no pop at bantamweight. He had great cardio at bantamweight. I'm not really understanding the move here to featherweight. I just can't comprehend. And exactly where Ricky Turcios is pretty solid, Alberto Montes is an absolute maniac. Ricky Turcios, I think, has some kind of underrated grappling. But Alberto Montes is an absolute submission artist. I'm going to check this, but I believe all of his wins have come by finish. I want to double check just to make sure. Again, I'm giving you all correct statistics. Yeah, not all of his fights. I don't know what I'm saying, but his last 3 fights by submission. Alberto Montes is an undefeated submission grappler. Is absolutely nasty on the ground. And so if Ricky Turcios goes for some of those takedowns, I think he gets wrapped up like a blunt. Alberto Montes has the most beautiful Darce choke you have ever seen in your entire life. I remember watching it in one of his regional fights. It was absolutely incredible how quickly he wrapped up that Darce and had a great submission win on Dana White's, I believe it was Dana White's Contender Series as well. And Ricky Turcios has looked subpar in the UFC at best, losing fights to Bernardo Sopai and many others here within the UFC. And I think Ricky Turcios is going to find himself potentially on the chopping block after a loss to Alberto Montes. I think Alberto Montes could potentially get this fight done by sub. I think he could get it done by decision as well. And so I'm going to double check the odds just to make. I think Alberto Montes is the favorite here. See, this is the thing, guys. I don't even really check out the odds much before I predict these fights because I don't want the odds to majorly influence the way that I'm predicting these fights. If I'm feeling 50-50 about something, I may look at the odds and say, oh my God, this guy's a big underdog. Give me that guy. But I don't want to prime myself to be like, oh, that guy's definitely going to win. And so Alberto Montes, yes, is a minus 200 favorite, is about what I would expect against Ricky Turcios. And give me Alberto Montes to get the job done by submission. I was going to say inside the distance, but probably by submission or decision here. And so moving on, we got Donte Jackson versus Cody Brundage, one of the worst fighters in the UFC. My guy, Cody Brundage, the ATT product. You know, Cody Brundage is now moving down from light heavyweight. We've seen him move all around different weight classes, Cody Brundage, between middleweight and light heavyweight. But Cody Brundage is good for about 4 minutes. He's very, very talented. Like, he has a lot of raw talent. If you watch the first, 3 or 4 minutes of a Cody Brundage fight, you're going to say, wow, this guy's not bad. This guy's not bad. But he just absolutely fades in every single one of his matchups. It's not even like, oh, this one fight, he showed some bit of cardio. He's obviously working on the cardio. No. Cody Brundage has never worked on his cardio. It looks horrible. He looks horrible out there. And Donte Jackson, look at that build. Look at Donte Jackson. Tell me you want to step in the ring with someone who's got muscles that size. Let's be honest. Just look at the two of them. Cody Brundage's got some of that flab on him. I got some of that flab on me too. Don't worry, I play baseball. I call that my velo pouch. That's where I get a little extra mustard. Is that where Cody Brundage gets a little extra mustard on some of his punches? He looks a little soft-bodied. I think Donte Jackson absolutely dismantles Cody Brundage, but I do think it takes a second. I think Cody Brundage might even win the first round. This is something that Cody Brundage does often. He comes out hot and fades incredibly quickly. So give me Donte Jackson by round 2 or round 3 finish. Donte Jackson, yep, minus 720 on FanDuel right now. And I'm trying to look at this. I kind of like the over-under is 1.5. The over-under at 1.5 kind of scares me. Cody Brundage could easily go out, and the over is plus 140. Cody Brundage could easily go out in the first 2.5 minutes of that second round. But the fight to start round 2 is minus 110. And I think that's an absolute banger of a pick. I think Donte Jackson, Cody Brundage definitely is going to start round 2. I think Donte Jackson is definitely going to win this fight. I think Cody Brundage's only route to victory would be a round 1 finish of Donte Jackson, which is possible. It is possible that Donte Jackson gets finished in the first round by Cody Brundage. Possible, but unlikely. Actually, if you like Cody in this fight, I think you can take a sprinkle on Cody by round 1 finish because it's something like plus 1,400. And that's pretty much his money line. His money line is plus 450. I think if he doesn't knock him out or finish him in the first round, Cody Brundage is absolutely cooked. Cody Brundage is one of the worst fighters in the UFC. And this matchup is absolutely, as my guy says, absolutely diabolical. And so give me Donte Jackson to dismantle Cody Brundage in round 2 and round 3. And so moving on, we got the featured prelim. My boy, the former champion, no love, Cody Garbrandt, Mr. Style on him. I still remember when Cody Garbrandt was styling on Dominic Cruz. He was the best fighter in the world for a whole 25 minutes. And now we've seen Cody Brundage, I don't want to say come back to reality because I know Cody Brundage has still got it. I know he still has it. He hasn't been in those wars like he was in with Pedro Munoz or some of those other guys back in the day. Has fought a little bit smarter in his last few fights. I thought he looked really fast in his fight against Deiveson Figueiredo. Just Deiveson Figueiredo clearly had the advantage on the ground. But Xiao Long is no Deiveson Figueiredo. Xiao Long is 1-2 in the UFC. I know you guys are going to hate me for this. I know this is, I don't even know if this is the popular pick. I want to see Cody Garbrandt's an underdog. Oh God, he's an underdog versus Xiao Long? He's 1-2 in the UFC. He's off the road to UFC. These road to UFC guys are never that great. They're never that great. Do I do it? I gotta see like these methods. Cody Garbrandt, man. Give me Cody Garbrandt to turn back the clock and get a win over Xiao Long. You could just not pay me enough money to take Xiao Long at minus 160 over the former champion. I know Cody Garbrandt is not who he used to be. I know he's not. I mean, you see that record, 14-7. He has taken many losses throughout his career at this point. But Xiao Long, I mean, look at that record, 27-10. Xiao Long has 10 losses on his record. And 2 of them, I'm double checking against who Xiao. Yeah, he lost to Chung Ho Lee and Su Young Yu. And his only win is over Quang Li. Xiao Long needs to be taken off of the road to UFC circuit. He's just been fighting other fighters from the same region, and fighters from that region who come off the road to UFC traditionally have not been all that good or have not been all that successful in the UFC. Cody Garbrandt's losses, I mean, Raoni Barcelos had his back for so much of that fight, and he didn't even get subbed. I know I'm saying he didn't even get subbed, but he lost a unanimous decision to Raoni Barcelos, who's about to be ranked in this division. He got submitted by Deiveson Figueiredo, but before that, we saw him in a very, very calm, cool, collected performance against Brian Kelleher, actually absolutely flatlining Brian Kelleher. And we also saw him beat Trevin Jones by unanimous decision. I know those wins are not the most impressive, but Xiao Long isn't the most impressive either. And if you're telling me Cody Garbrandt's last 3 losses are against Raoni Barcelos, Deiveson Figueiredo, and Kai Kara France, and Xiao Long's last losses are against guys that are, I don't want to disrespect them, but are nobodies in the UFC, give me Cody Garbrandt all day in this fight. Cody Garbrandt at plus 130. Man, I'm going to sprinkle the points, I think. Cody Garbrandt by points at plus 300. I do think Cody Garbrandt could potentially find the chin and knock out Xiao Long, turn the clock back. My boy, Cody No Love Garbrandt is getting the win, getting it done in the featured prelim. And so, moving on, the opener of the main card, an absolute banger, RoboCop, as I like to call him, and my guy Lei likes to call him on YouTube, Violent Obama versus Bruno Ferreira. And let's just say we've already seen this fight before. We saw Bruno Ferreira absolutely flatline Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues, but these guys are at different points in their career now. Bruno Ferreira is off of a huge unanimous decision win against Marvin Vettori, and it kind of felt like this was Bruno Ferreira's moment. Like, this is when Bruno Ferreira really, really arrived, kind of showcased his true capability. We've seen Bruno Ferreira kind of get, I don't want to say fed layups, but we've seen Bruno Ferreira get fed a little bit of easier fighters, right? And we've seen Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues have to face the absolute dogs of the division. I just want to see, Bruno Ferreira beat Marvin Vettori by decision. I just want to double check. I know he had a sub against Arman Petrosian. We've seen him KO Dustin Stolfus, but we saw him get stubbed by Abus Magomedov. And if it were me, I know RoboCop Gregory Rodrigues has much better wrestling than Bruno Ferreira. If it were me, if I were RoboCop, I'd be shooting for the takedown, get on top of him, throw big elbows, go boom, boom, right on top of Bruno Ferreira, and you will get Bruno Ferreira out of there quick, or at least win a dominant decision. But you know RoboCop Rodrigues is just not like that. He doesn't want to take him down. He wants to stand and bang. And against Bruno Ferreira, can anyone really stand and bang? This is a great matchup at the bottom of the middleweight rankings, and it's going to be a very, very difficult one to pick. I just want to double check on Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues' last few fights. Yeah, absolutely. Win against Roman Kopylov. We saw him almost kill Jack Hermanson. That was the end of Jack Hermanson's life. I remember that. He lost to Jared Cannonier in a main event, but I just don't think RoboCop Rodrigues is kind of built for those 5-round fights. And the killer gorilla Jared Cannonier is still a very, very, very talented fighter. But we've seen him knock out guys like Brad Tavares, who was seemingly unknockoutable. We've seen him beat CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan, which at this point is a very, very impressive performance, considering CLD has looked great since that loss to RoboCop Rodrigues, KOing Marco Tulio, Eric Anders, and other guys at that. And so I'm just going to double check the odds here. With RoboCop losing this first fight, Bruno Ferreira winning this one, Are we going to see like kind of a pick 'em here? What are the odds we're going to see checking out FanDuel right now? RoboCop Rodrigues minus 210. I would understand the Bruno Ferreira side here. I mean, we've seen Bruno Ferreira win this fight before. We know he can do it. But give me RoboCop. Give me violent Obama to absolutely smash Bruno Ferreira's face in. I think if RoboCop Rodrigues gets this fight on the ground, he will just absolutely dismantle Bruno Ferreira. And so give me Gregory Rodrigues on the money line to get the job done. And so moving on, we got Drew Dober versus Michael Johnson. And let's just say Michael Johnson is on a 3-fight win streak at this point in his career. Drew Dober, you see that chin? The gold standard for chins in the UFC. Just look at that. He's got a blockhead if I've ever seen one. Michael Johnson is going to want to keep Drew Dober on the outside, pick him apart at range, throw strikes. And I think Michael Johnson is going to be piecing up Drew Dober for the majority of this fight. But, and this is a big but, we've seen Michael Johnson has hit the stiff knockout, fall over. We've seen that happen multiple times to Michael Johnson. And if Drew Dober can move forward and move past the jab of Michael Johnson and get in his face, get him up against the cage, and throw a big haymaker, Drew Dober is going to flatline him. And I think every time when Michael Johnson gets a little steam behind him, that's exactly what happens. And Drew Dober is an underdog in this spot. I know Dober hasn't looked great in his recent fights. I know we've seen Dober finished. I know people think that chin is starting to fade a little bit. But I really don't think Michael Johnson has the power to KO him. And so I think Michael Johnson either keeps him away from him for 15 minutes and wins a pretty easy decision, or Drew Dober is going to get in his face and freaking flatline KO Michael Johnson, or hurt him so bad that the fight never looks the same. And so, with that being said, give me the iron, the block chin, whatever you want to call him, Drew Dober to beat Michael Johnson. I know this is not typical in the guys who Drew Dober tends to beat, but if you know, you know. But Drew Dober being an underdog here in this spot against a 39-year-old Michael Johnson who is on a 3-fight win streak, who I just feel like is destined to lose. Give me Drew Dober to KO him out cold. We're going to see another Michael Johnson stiffen up and fall to the canvas. And so Drew Dober at plus 110 is the play here. Moving on, we got Rob Font versus Raul Rosas Jr. And I've already looked at the odds of this fight because I took an early spot here. I think Raul Rosas Jr. gets a sub decision easy here. I don't think he could ever find KO. I took the sub decision at minus 150. And so I really, really think that Raul Rosas is just going to be able to take down Rob Font at will. Rob Font is going to try and get back up. We've seen it, but Rob Font kind of has that takedown defense of a newborn baby giraffe. And so Raul Rosas is either going to be able to control him for all 15 minutes and, kind of glide his way to an easy decision, or Rob Font's going to try and get up. He's going to do everything he can to try and get up. And Raul Rosas is going to wrap up that back like a freaking blunt, sink in that rear naked choke, and absolutely choke Rob Font out. Rob Font, the 38-year-old, fighting the 21-year-old Raul Rosas Jr. This is the largest age gap we have ever seen in a UFC fight. 17 years younger. The 21-year-old Raul Rosas Jr., younger than I am, is going to put on an absolute display. He's been improving, right? What is Raul Rosas great at? He's a great grappler. So every single day, I believe Raul Rosas is going to be in the gym working on that striking. And so I think if he's working on that every day, he's got to be getting better at it, right? He's got to be getting better at it for sure. And so if he's getting even slightly better on the feet, I think he's going to be able to hang with Rob Font a little bit. Don't get me wrong. If this fight happened on the feet for 15 minutes, Rob Font is going to piece up Raul Rosas. Don't get me wrong. But I think Raul Rosas can do enough to hold his own on the feet, get into the ground, control the majority of this fight, either find a submission or win this fight by decision. And so I think the money line play here at minus 210 is an absolute great parlay spot. And I think Raul Rosas by submission or decision, whichever way you lean, is also a great spot as well. So give me Raul Rosas Jr. And moving on, we got Caio Borralho versus Reinier de Ridder in the co-main event of the evening. This middleweight bout, it has two fighters coming off of, kind of key losses in their UFC career. We saw Reinier de Ridder gas out, and I believe it was in Canada against Brendan Allen. Brendan All-In Allen looked like an absolute stud in that fight. Don't get me wrong, a very, very, very talented fighter at that, but to gas out against Brendan Allen is embarrassing. Is embarrassing. Dare I say embarrassing? To gas out in general in the UFC like that. We saw Reinier de Ridder unable to get up off the ground after the fourth round. And so to see someone gas out like that is not a good sight. But I will say, Reinier de Ridder did fight 5 times in the year, right? That was his 5th fight within a year in the UFC. And the UFC doctors, I saw some information. I was doing some research behind Reinier de Ridder, and they said his blood work looked terrible after that fight. You heard Reinier de Ridder kind of talking about it a little bit. And the UFC PI has got him right with a bunch of peptides that he is on. Reinier de Ridder looks as good as he has ever looked physically. He looks absolutely ripped. He is on weight from everything that I am hearing. And so Reinier de Ridder is in a prime spot in his career. But can Caio Borralho, the fighting nerds man, Mr. Free Spirit tattooed on his neck, can he beat Reinier de Ridder? Does he have what it takes? And to be honest, Caio Borralho is about a minus 300 in this spot. I think the value would be on de Ridder here, but I think Caio Borralho gets this fight done by decision. I think Reinier de Ridder, in order to get this fight done, what he has to do is he needs to win round 1. He needs to hurt Caio Borralho early in round 1, or he needs to absolutely control Caio Borralho on the ground, eat him up in round 1. But I think, the same way we saw Reinier de Ridder kind of throw that big knee against Bo Nickel, I just don't think those same opportunities are going to quite be there against Caio Borralho. Bo Nickel does not have very good footwork at this point in his career on the feet. Caio Borralho has been in fights with guys like Nassourdine Imavov, albeit losing at that decision. That was his last fight, losing that decision to Nassourdine Imavov. But Imavov is a great striker, and Imavov is a much better striker than de Ridder is. I know it's a very, very different style of striking at that. De Ridder has a little bit of Dutch kickboxing, throws out that big rear knee, that big left knee. But I can't get behind de Ridder. I really do believe that de Ridder is going to have to move forward in this fight. He's going to have to take him down. He's going to have to hurt him early. And I think Caio Borralho probably pieces him up on the feet. I think we saw Borralho fight Paul Craig. And I think Caio Borralho probably takes this fight with a pretty similar approach. Don't get me wrong, Reinier de Ridder is much better than Paul Craig on the feet. But Caio Borralho can kind of piece him up at range, keep Reinier de Ridder at bay. I think Borralho either wins a 29-28, 30-27 decision, or I could potentially see a KO if Reinier de Ridder is rushing in and Borralho kind of sits back and unloads that rear left hand. But I think we probably just see, a pretty close, maybe decision, 29-28, leaning Borralho, with Reinier de Ridder winning the first round and having moments, but not quite being able to get the job done. And so give me Caio Borralho. I don't really have an exact result, but I think he wins this fight. And so moving on, the champion has a name, and it's Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira, an absolute monster, taking on Max Holloway, 2 legends going at it in the UFC this weekend. This rematch is sure to be a good one. The first fight pretty much didn't even happen. It was about 11 years ago. That's when we saw Oliveira grabbing his arm. He went down with what we called an esophagus injury. We don't actually know what it was. I don't actually know exactly what it was. I remember watching that and being like, oh my God. But Holloway has looked very, very good as of recently, right? Coming off of wins over Dustin Poirier. We saw him I don't even what he did to Justin Gaethje, man. My guy, the human highlight. Justin Gaethje got absolutely slept face first into the canvas. It made me a little bit sad to watch Max Holloway. But I think again, this fight is a pretty easy fight to break down. If Charles do Bronx Oliveira gets Max Holloway on the ground, I mean, we saw what Charles do Bronx did to an incredible grappler in Mateus Gramrot. Gamrot is one of the best grapplers in the lightweight division, and Charles do Bronx made easy work of Gamrot, taking him to the ground and submitting him with no problem whatsoever. And so, if Oliveira can get Holloway to the ground, I mean, I think Charles do Bronx is going to finish him. I think Charles do Bronx is going to finish him. But can he get Max Holloway to the ground? Maybe. Is it bad that we're here at this main event and I still don't know who I'm gonna pick? I think this fight is incredibly close, and I think the odds are not doing this fight justice. Max Holloway is a minus 225 favorite against Charles Du Bronx Oliveira, and I think people also underestimate Charles Oliveira's ability on the feet. Justin Gaethje said it himself. Charles Oliveira is the hardest puncher he has ever been hit by. And Justin Gaethje has been hit by Holloway as well. And so, with that being said, I think Max Holloway has a very clear edge on the feet, right? Max Holloway is going to want to take that Sumudaerji approach, kind of piece him up, jab, 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 throw a big right hand every once in a while, because Du Bronx is going to be coming forward with that pressure style. But Charles Oliveira can strike too. Charles Oliveira can strike too. And I'm really, really worried about Max Holloway being taken down. I won't lie. I I was going into talking about this. I was very, very heavily leaning Holloway. Talking about this right now, I'm even thinking about it. I'm semi-leaning Oliveira, and so we're gonna have to put that gun to the head, AK-47 M16, pointed at the back of my dome. Who am I going with? Give me the Blessed Express. Give me the Hawaiian native, Max Holloway, to win this fight. I think either wins by decision. I think Max Holloway probably puts Charles Oliveira's lights out by KO. We've seen Oliveira's lights go out before. We saw the way Ilia Topuria did him. Charles Oliveira, I know he has 11 losses, most of those coming much earlier in his career. His only real losses as of recent have come to Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev. He has huge wins over guys like Arman Tsarukyan, Mateus Gamrot, Michael Chandler. Just an absolute beast is Charles do Bronx. But give me the Blessed Express. You know what they say, the best is blessed. And so give me Max Holloway to win this fight. And with that being said, we're just going to do a speed run through every fight. In the main event, I got Holloway. In the co-main, I got Caio. In the bantamweight bout, 3 from the top, I got Raul Rosas. In the next one, give me Drew Dober. Then I got RoboCop, Gregory Rodrigues. What up? Cody No Love Garbrandt. Yes, sir. Donte Johnson. I really like this fight to go to start round 2. I think that's a great bet. I think Donte Johnson finishes Cody Brundage in round 2 or round 3. Give me Alberto Montes. Give me Cody Durden pulling off the upset. Jesus Aguilar with another upset pick on the card. Rafael, Tobias, Jeong Lee, and Luke Fernandez to round out the picks for today. And so what does that mean? That means we got to cook up a cycle lay really quickly because I don't have anything. I really have nothing. All right. I'm gonna pull out the phone right now. We're gonna get on FanDuel and we're gonna cook for a second. And so I'm thinking that I'm leaning. Oh man, I'm gonna take. This is gonna be an incredible. I'm gonna do right now in this video. I'm gonna give you an incredible long shot cycle lay, and then I'm gonna post a YouTube short and potentially a regular YouTube video that's giving you a closer odded cycle lay. But give me Raul Rosas Jr. by submission to choke out the man, the 13 ranked bantamweight, the 38-year-old Rob Font. That is going to be not the first leg, but that's the first thing that really comes to my mind for the cycle lay. The second thing, I'm debating. I'm really having a tough debate here. Give me Caio Baralho by points to beat Reinier de Ritter at plus 130. I think there's probably better value out there on this card, but I really do think that that's going to happen. I really do think that that's going to happen. And so, what does that mean for the last one? Give me, if he wins it, this is probably how he does it, right? Give me Drew Dober by KO. Let's just say 100 wins, 3.3K. Make sure you tap in. Me personally, I'm probably gonna throw like a little cheeky 10 bomb on that, maybe a little 5 bomb on that, plus 3,248 parlay. And so that's gonna be the cycle lay for UFC 326. We already talked about every fight that we like, every fighter that we like, and potentially the bets that we're going to be taking. I'm sorry for that little pop-up. My computer battery is low just at the right time because I'm wrapping this video up. Remember, if you're enjoying content like this, please like, leave a comment, and subscribe. It's always a pleasure to do these breakdowns with you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. I'll post more of my bets on YouTube Shorts. Make sure to stay tuned, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.